Let's talk about middleware groups. And like we said, middleware groups are simply middleware that run on a particular set of routes. Okay, so you can define a route and you can make sure that route belongs to a group of other routes, and then you can run particular middleware on all of that group of routes. For example, if I take you to your web.php, you can register a route group, pass in a closure, and inside this route group you can go ahead and define routes of particular similarity, and this similarity can be a prefix that you want to put in, and you can use the Laravel's prefix method, or you can want to attach a middleware to all of these routes, and you can also use the Laravel middleware method. Laravel gives us this extensibility. Therefore, you can create your own custom middleware groups that we are going to be talking about in this video. Laravel ships in with 2 default middleware groups, and in our kernel.php we can see those groups. The first is the web group and the second is the API group. The web group middleware is applied to all routes in the group called web, which are the routes that are registered in the web.php, and the API group is applied to all routes in a group called API, which are those in the API.php. And I'm going to show you how this happens. If you head over to our route service provider, we discover that we have a map method, and this map method registers some routes for us. It calls the map API routes method and the map web routes method. And if we check out the map web routes method, what it does is it registers some routes, a route group precisely, and it imports all of the routes from web.php, or registers them, and makes sure that it applies a namespace of this namespace, which is here, so app HTTP controllers, and also it wraps all of those routes in a middleware web. Okay, so the middleware group is called web, and it wraps all of the routes in the web.php with this middleware. Same thing with the API routes. It registers a group, pulls in all of the routes from api.php, sets a namespace, which is this namespace, and applies the middleware API group on that group of routes. Okay, and it also prefixes API right here. So if you actually wanted to customize what is the prefix right here, you can change it to whatever you want. Okay, so maybe API version 1 or version 2 or whatever you want. Okay, then you can also customize the namespace of all your API routes. For example, if you wanted every single route that is in the API.php to automatically get its controllers from an API directory, all you need to do is apply /API right here. And rather than app HTTP controllers, it's going to go into app HTTP controllers API directory. Okay, how cool is that? Laravel gives us a very large possibility to customize even at this level. Now let's talk about something fun. How do we create our own group, register it with our own middleware, and how do we chain everything together? Let's do that exercise right now. Say you have a group of administrators in your application and you want administrators to see a particular page or a particular action button, and you don't want known administrators to be able to see this. How do you chain that up? Let's create a custom middleware for this. PHP artisan make middleware administrator, and this is a functionality that you might have in almost all of your applications, so let's go ahead and build it. I'll head over to the administrator.php, and now in this middleware what we are going to be doing is checking if the current user is an administrator. If not, we'll do something, and if the user is an administrator, we'll do something else. Okay, so looks like we need a user-based authentication system. We'll make this fast with PHP artisan make auth, and that's it. We already have an authentication system for us. Now what are we going to be doing in this middleware? Like we discussed in the previous videos, we can actually create an administrator table or an admin boolean field in our users table to determine if the user is an administrator. But if you have a very simple application where you have only 1 or 2 administrators, the best way to go is to save your administrator emails in an array in your configuration file. Very easy. And then in your middleware, you just need to check if the current user is an administrator. I'll show you how I do this. In my app.php, I'll define a custom route key, which is going to be for the administrators of this application. And what I'm simply going to be doing is actually saving their emails. So right here, I'm going to say administrators, and I'll map this to an array, and I'll put it in cathy@france.com as the only administrator. Okay, so any administrators in your application will be registered under this key. Then in my administrator middleware, what I'm simply going to do is check if in array auth user email and we're checking if it's in the array of config method, and we'll get the app.administrators. Okay, so if it's in that array, then let's just for the moment die dump you are an administrator. Okay, then if the user is not an administrator, then we'll die dump you do not have access. Okay, so that's what our middleware does. It checks if the current user is an administrator by checking if its email is among the ones that are registered in our config app.administrators. Okay, then what we could do right here is make sure that the user is authenticated by saying if auth check, then run this, and else we'll die dump please log in. Okay, so check if the user is authenticated. If not, die dump please log in. But if the user is authenticated, check if his email is in the config array of administrators, and if that is the case, die dump you are an administrator. If not, then die dump you do not have access. Now, where do we register our middleware? Let's head over to our kernel.php. Like we said, we want to create our own middleware group that is going to have all the routes registered for administrators. Therefore, let's go ahead and take care of this. Right in this group, we are going to create our own group, and I'll call that admin for now. And in here, we need to register all the middleware that are going to be run for this group of routes. First of all, I would like to pull in all the middleware registered under the web, because we are going to be using cookies, starting the session, checking the CSRF token, sharing errors from session, and all of that good stuff. Okay, and then we want to also register our custom middleware right here. So app http middleware, and that will be administrator class. That's it. So we registered a new admin middleware group, and it uses all the middleware groups in web, and it also has a custom administrator middleware. Now, if we head over to our web.php, we can do something like this: routes group, and everything inside here is going to be for the administrators, and we can map middleware, and we'll pass in middleware group right here, which is going to be admin that we just registered right now. And we can also add a prefix of maybe admin. And let's just try this out. Let's register a route, which is going to be a get, and I'll just register the home route. And right here, we're just going to die dump route was reached. Okay, so we have a route middleware group called admin that we just registered, and we are applying it to this route group right here. And we've prefixed all routes under that route group using our admin key right here. And therefore, we have a /admin registered middleware right now. And let's go ahead and try to visit it. If we visit admin, yeah, we have please login. Let's visit login, or rather register. So we'd register a new user. And by the way, behind the scenes, I already took care of setting up my database and stuff like that. Okay, I'm registering with the email that I specified as an administrator. And yeah, I'm logged in. So let's visit admin right now. And it says you are an administrator. Okay, if I head over to my config, and I change this email in some way such that this user is no longer an administrator, sure enough, we have the correct message that says you do not have access. But if you look at it, let's head over to our web.php. Look at it, it looks a little bit messy. And if you have 1,000 or 100 routes that are for the admin middleware group, and stocking it inside here is really gonna make your file look messy. But we can do better, right? Laravel has taught us how to customize. So let's go ahead to our route service provider, and we are going to define our own routes group. And this is gonna be this map admin routes method. Okay, let's just use the convention. Now we need to create that method. So protected. So how is this going to be? We'll register a prefix just like we are doing right now, and that prefix will be admin, and the middleware is going to be the admin middleware, and the namespace, let's say we want the controllers to be in the admin directory. So we'll concatenate this namespace, which is the default namespace, to administrators namespace, and the group that we're going to specify is from admin.php. Therefore, in our routes directory /admin.php. Okay, so let's create that file, routes/admin.php. Okay, so right here, this is where we're going to define all our routes. Therefore, this route that we have right here, I'm going to pull it out, and now it's going to be in our administrator.php file. Okay, now we have a very clean space to register all routes that have to do with administrators. And if we refresh, we should have the same result. We do. Therefore, let's go ahead and make sure this user is an administrator. Save, run that request, and we still have exactly the same results. Okay, so that's perfectly great. We've learned how we can create our own custom middleware groups, our own custom route files, where we can have clean registered routes in our application. So just to recap, in our kernel.php, we registered a new admin middleware group, and we are registering all of the middleware under web plus our own custom administrator middleware under this middleware group. And in our route service provider, we have a new set of routes called admin, and we're going to place them in the admin.php, and we're applying that middleware to all of those routes in that group. So hopefully you understood what we did in this lesson. I hope it goes a long way to make your projects look real clean and professional. I'm going to catch you in the very next video where we talk about something more fun. Thank you.